Hi there, welcome to the webinar. I'm really happy that you're here. My name's Omar Khateeb. You probably either saw me on LinkedIn, maybe you watched one of my videos or read an article of mine. Either way, I'm really happy that you're here. We're gonna go through a very high level presentation to show you how I used LinkedIn and social media to essentially grow pipeline, influence physicians, and subtitle, change my career, change my life. And so I hope you can get some value out of this. And if you stay to the end of the presentation, I have a special offer, a free offer just for you. I think you'll really enjoy it, and I encourage you to take advantage of it. So with that being said, let's get right into it. So digital medical sales, how I used LinkedIn to influence physicians remotely and grow pipeline. All right. So just for context, you should always ask, like, if somebody's going to present something to you, like, who is this person? Like, why should I listen to them? Well, for me, born and raised in Texas, a little over 10 years ago, I used to be a medical student. I went to Texas Tech University and decided that I was going to leave halfway through to go into technology. Fortunately, I was on a full academic scholarship, and so that helped with the debt. And I carried the bag. I started off in medical sales, and there I am without a beard. And I worked for a great company called Mazor Robotics. We sold robotic spine technology, the first robotic system to surgeons. And shortly afterwards, I also got promoted into marketing, and so this is also me. When I was at the Mayo Clinic, I stayed overnight. So very much like you, I've carried the bag, I've sold and marketed to physicians, and I know how difficult this job can be, right? Where am I today? Well, today, here's what my career looks like as a result of what I've done on LinkedIn. And let me move my little circle here. I've been invited to our industry's top investor conference and summit to speak about topics such as Web3 and NFTs. I also was on a panel that talked about upending the sales model. So in a room full of venture capitalists, strategic investors such as Johnson & Johnson and Baxter and Medtronic, I spoke about how things were changing our industry, how you have to evaluate sales teams, and how you should really be selling to physicians. And of course, I have a popular podcast. You can find more in the notes below. But I've connected and had the respect of people like Scott Hunnekens, Tony Recupero, who's a president of SI Bone, a former U.S. surgical leader. And for those of you who may not recognize him, that's Jeffrey Morse. So the famous Crossing the Chasm author I've also befriended, who I'm very proud to say discovered me through some of my work, some of my writing, and reached out, and we became good friends. So that's who I am, and that's why I think I'm qualified to talk about these things. But most importantly, when it comes to packing pipeline and influencing physicians, nothing speaks more than the truth and true testimonies. So this is Joe Urban, who's CEO of Potrero Medical, one of the great CEOs in our industry. And this is on my LinkedIn. I blocked out this part just to make it easier to read, but here he says that I implemented a growth strategy that put 35 deals in 60 days on our board. Some of those were healthcare's largest health systems and most prestigious academic centers. This led to customers for Potrero, major introductions to critical clinical sites, and world thought leading clinicians that have been instrumental in our cardiac registry study. So what I'm going to teach you to do today is not only things that I have data to back it on, but I've taken action and I've gotten results from it. Okay, so these are the reasons why I'm qualified to talk about what I'm about to talk about, and more importantly, teach you. Now, if you're struggling with getting access and influencing physicians in hospital admin, what I'm here to tell you is that it's not entirely your fault, but it kind of is. Okay, now I don't know about other webinars, but what you signed up right now is not for therapy. You signed up to get some business advice, right? And so I'm going to be a little bit harsh, but some of this is your fault, some of it's not. Okay, and we look at that, I like to think there are three things that are holding you back in your career as a salesperson and as a professional, okay? So the first thing, your company. Quota has gone up for everybody, right? I've done over 18 of these webinars straight as of today, and I poll a lot of people. Quota went up for everybody, 10, 15, 20%, and yet companies have not invested a dime to say, hey, you know what? Hospital access has gone away. How is our sales team going to actually sell, right? And they are, as a result, taking action that's not helping salespeople at all. Here it is. This is just in January 2022. Pfizer, who made $80 billion last year, they of anybody don't need to let anybody off or lay anybody off. Pfizer to cut U.S. sales staff as meetings with healthcare providers move to virtual. Okay. Now, I know what many of you are thinking. Some of you are in medical devices, maybe biotech, and you say, oh, that's pharma. That's not going to happen to us, right? Well, it is going to happen to you. Amgen, another company, now technically, yeah, pharma company, but every pharma company, especially large ones, are technically medtech companies because they're partnering with people developing hardware for drug delivery, these kind of things. Amgen cuts 500 U.S. jobs, primarily sales reps, as COVID-19 speeds to a shift to digital, right? And this is in 2021, right? So these changes are happening, right? Now, the next thing that's holding you back is your marketing team. Now, me as a marketer, I can actually say this, and a lot of marketing people are going to have a problem with this, but it's true because how often is marketing saying, hey, how are we going to get better quality leads, right? Do you ever hear a marketing team say that? Or more importantly, how are we going to generate demand so when a salesperson goes and talks to a physician, the physician is ready to like try the product? Like those aren't sales calls, they're closing calls. How much work are you doing just to compensate for the lack of marketing in your company, right? And let's just say you're in a company that has really good marketing, that has a digital strategy and does all these things. Things have gotten harder. Apple's privacy laws have affected everybody, and Google's jumping on board. So email marketing, right? Even me, when I email a bunch of people from my list, not all my emails are getting delivered, right? Because of those privacy laws. And even when they are, it's going to either a spam folder, maybe it's going to the promotions folder, right? So emails becoming more difficult. What about paid social media? Same thing. Apple literally destroyed Facebook's business because of this. And I know a lot of companies in the B2C space who have reduced, if not completely eliminated, their ad budget on Facebook because you're just not getting the returns. It's more difficult, more expensive, and the returns aren't there, right? But the last thing that's really holding back is you. You as a salesperson, you have to take some responsibility for yourself because you've seen these things happening. I know that many of you probably thought about it, okay? And you realized that these things these changes are happening. What action have you taken? Let me ask yourself, as you see, I'm here in my library. How many books do you own? When was the last book that you purchased and bought? And if you did buy a book and you're in that top 1 percentile, when was the last time you paid for your own training, professional education, these kind of things, versus leaving it up to your company? Famous quote that I was told when I started in this industry is that your professional growth is not the responsibility of your manager or your company. It's your responsibility, right? And so many of you are just sitting ducks, but you took the right step by clicking the link and coming and watching this webinar, okay? And I'm going to help you. And again, whatever you've been doing, you can't afford to continue doing these things because, many of you don't hit your quota for a quarter, and this is what you're like. You go home and crawl into bed. And even if you are hitting quota, you know that this is only going to last so long, right? Change is here. Hospital access is getting taken away. It's harder to reach out to your physicians. And keep in mind, you're not the only salesperson selling to them. It's not just medtech, biotech, and pharma. You're talking about software, who is very savvy when it comes to sales and marketing, accounting services, legal, all these things. The number of people have gone up. Larry Ellison of Oracle purchased Cerner for $28 billion, the electronic medical records company, not by accident. That's the biggest acquisition they've ever made. It's because tech is moving into our industry as well. So things are going to get more difficult, more competitive, fast. Okay. The goal of this webinar is I'm going to create a new belief with you. And that is the only way to actually 10x your pipeline is to influence physicians and hospital admin at scale. That's only possible through what I call sales network effects using LinkedIn. Okay. Granted, there's other social media platforms that I use, but LinkedIn is a special one. A very specific reason as to why. All right. So as I reduce my little bubble here for a second, how I 10x my pipeline and influence physicians. This is my story, and we're going to get into the tactics. Okay. Now, in 2013, there we go. 2013, as I mentioned, I was a clinical sales rep. I sold from Azure Robotics, and I was selling to spine and neurosurgeons. Okay. And one day I had to cold call, right? Just like many of you, I had to go prospecting. So I walked up to the hospital. I was like, I need to go get a hold of Arnold Vardaman, very well-known neurosurgeon. I go up to the hospital. It's like Mission Impossible, right? You're trying to find your way in the hospital. I'm looking up. I find the Sky Bridge. I go to the office. I find it. Neurosurgical Associates of San Antonio. And then I walk in. It's empty. And I remember like, this is great. So I talked to the admin. I'm like, I'm here to speak to Dr. Vardaman. I represent Azure Robotics. And they're like, yeah, he's here. Come back. And you know that feeling you get as a salesperson, especially when you just started, when you're like, oh my God, it worked. I picked the right time. I said the right things. I'm going to meet the surgeon face to face. It's done. He walks and sits down. This is him. He literally looks at me just like this blank stare. I start telling him about my technology, so on and so forth. He interrupts me. He's like, yeah, I've seen your marketing ploy lately. I'm not impressed. He might as well just hit me in the face with a bucket of cold water. I finished what I had to say. I left some brochures. I left. It was done. It was over. And I went and sat in the hospital lobby like this for like a solid 30 minutes to an hour. Like it felt like time stood still because I was so embarrassed that I screwed it up. And I was like, there has to be a better way, you know? And later he became a user, but that was like a year or two later and not because of me. So at the time, I was a talented young man, and management realized I was really good at marketing, and doing market development. So I was promoted as a U.S. marketing manager. My number one objective, because I was mentored and trained by the greatest sales execs in our industry. Number one objective, help marketing sell more robots. Okay. And along the way, I had a great mentor, somebody who unfortunately passed away a few years ago, and I try to always pay homage and honor his spirit. That was Chris Sells. And he would always tell me, he's like, look, how do you help capital accelerate these deals? How do you make their jobs easier? And of course, I said, you know what? More deals, more leads, and more importantly, generating demand. Like, how do I make it so that when the salesperson goes and talks to the physician, it's not a sales call where they're doing a song and dance and trying to convince them of a bunch of things. It's a closing call, in which case the physician is already convinced of the technology. The sales is just working with the physician to figure out how they're going to make this work, right? So that same year, we were going to a conference. We were going to NAS. And like many marketers, I was like, okay, I got to get leads to the booth, right? Aside from our customers who they're going to show up, we had a very loyal customer base. So like, how do I get leads to the booth? I looked at emails. I looked at all kinds of things. And then I said, what about LinkedIn? And I remember jumping on LinkedIn and seeing I looked up spine surgeons and neurosurgeons, and I found them. And remarkably, and this is what LinkedIn used to look like, I was able to download their emails, and I checked the emails. I was like, oh my God, these are personal emails. They're not work emails. And I got their cell phones. And I thought, well, while my competitors are emailing these people's work emails and blowing them up, I can send them a message on LinkedIn, and I can, send them an email, a personal email. And I remember asking one surgeon, I was like, hey, are you on LinkedIn? And he's like, yeah, I get on every now and then and stuff. I was like, does anybody message you? He's like, no, actually, weirdly enough, nobody really messages me. So that's what I did. I message all these surgeons. I tell them about our booth. I go and stand at our booth. We're having this big launch for our brain application. I'm waiting, and here are the results. Literally one surgeon came by, and he was a nerdy neurosurgeon. He literally looked like this guy. He came and he was like, hey, Omar from LinkedIn. Yeah, it's you. And he talked to me, and I was like, maybe LinkedIn's not a thing for selling. And he said, LinkedIn is becoming great for us in academia. I'll never forget that he said this. I wish I remember who that was, by the way, the surgeon. And I said, you know what? Maybe I just need to figure out how to make this work. Because if they're on there, it could be used, right? And so I spent the next 8 years figuring this out across a variety of companies: robotics companies, predictive health companies, AI, Gentem, which is a fintech software company we sold to private medical practices. And plus any sales rep that worked with me in the past, no matter what company they were at, I would message them my tactics and strategy and say, hey, can you try this? Tell me if it works. And most of the time they came back, they're like, yeah, man, it actually works. And so this all came to a head at Potrero, where you saw that result, that quote from Joe Urban. We sold capital equipment. This is a critical care monitoring system, okay? Very expensive. It's about $15,000 compared to the standard, which was like a $50 Foley catheter. So that's a very hard sale, okay? Now, here's what happened. In spring of 2020, we had a commercial partnership with a big medical device company. That ended, so we had no distribution. We only had 4 salespeople who couldn't sell, so they had to start from almost nothing. And we were in the middle of fundraising, right? So we were actually running out of money. And if you haven't guessed from the date, COVID-19 happens. Great time to be a startup company when you have no pipeline and you're raising money. This is literally the kiss of death. I can think of no other CEO who could lead a company out of this than somebody like Joe Urban, right? And so at the time, I was working from home like everybody else, and I remember looking on Twitter and realizing that Twitter was verifying more physicians. And then I was like, I wonder if it's happening on LinkedIn. And I started noticing an uptick on LinkedIn. So I went to Joe and I said, Joe, we should use LinkedIn to sell, right? We can't sell any other way. And so Joe looks at me and said, like, you know what? If you believe in this strategy, prove it. Because the sales team, you can't just tell them what to do. You have to actually show proof of it. So here's what I did. I went into a hybrid role and literally 1 hour a day, just like a salesperson. No marketing automation, nothing fancy. I was like, I'm going to use my cell phone to connect with physicians, post some content, engage with them, and see if I can get some pipeline. Okay. Now, in 60 days, here are the results. 35 deals in 60 days. These are actual screenshots. Here's the our deals created most recently by rep with most deals. Here's my name. There's 35. Here's everybody else. I don't know if you can count that fast, but this number is bigger than all of these. Plus, here's a screenshot of our actual pipeline. All these white cards were mine. And these are large healthcare systems. These are prestigious hospitals, you can say like a Cleveland Clinic, like a UCSF, like a Hopkins, right? University of Kansas. And of course, as mentioned, here is Joe's quote, okay? Now, here are the 3 things I'm going to teach you how to do. And I'm going to take a moment just to come back to you, just so it's easier for you not to get distracted. And I want to make a comment. Those deals that I show you, I want to be honest, I'm not the guy to tell you how to close that many deals. I didn't close any of those deals. I ended up leaving Petro many months later to take on a role in software and SaaS, and some of those deals did close. But again, I'm not here to tell you I'm the guy to teach you how to close deals left and right. I am here to tell you to show you how do you influence physicians and hospital admin at scale, and how do you pack pipeline, right? Because it's a numbers game. Many of you are very talented salespeople, and all you need is just to put people into the pipeline, and you can figure out the rest, right? So that's what this is going to be about. Here are the 3 secrets that we're going to go through. Secret number 1, physicians are spending more time on LinkedIn than you might realize. Number 2, they want to be engaged with on LinkedIn, and it's easier than you might realize. And number 3, you can do this in just 30 minutes a day. Okay, I'm going to show you the framework to do this. Okay, so secret number 1, physicians and other hospital decision makers are spending more time on LinkedIn than you might realize. Let me give you a scenario. Imagine that you go to a conference. Let's say your company's largest annual conference, and there's a lot of people there, right? A bunch of people, okay? And you're looking for your booth, and you're panicking because you're seeing your customers and you're seeing other surgeons you want to talk to. You can't find your booth. You walk by, you see Johnson & Johnson, Medtronic, you even see the little startup 10x10 booth, Stryker. Can't find your booth, and you finally do. Why is that the case? Like, think about it. Why exhibit at a conference? Why does Stryker, Medtronic need to exhibit? They're the biggest companies in the world. The number one reason why companies exhibit at conferences, and this was actually surveyed, is not to get new customers. It's to make sure their existing customers don't get curious and wander and spend too much time in a competitor's booth, because then that's how Monday comes and your deal is gone. The customer decides like, hey, I'm going to go in a different direction. Or you have an existing customer, right? And they say, I'm going to try this new technology. That's what they're there for. So I want you to imagine if there was an annual conference happening in your backyard every day of the year, how many days are you missing out being there to engage with your customers? That's essentially what social media is, right? And essentially, and this is pretty much why you're trying to prevent what you're trying to prevent. Your customer checking out your competitor and you just being dumbfounded, like, what are you doing, right? This is what every medtech company is trying to prevent, okay? Now, I know what some of you might be thinking, hey, dude, doctors don't have time to be on social media. They have profiles, but they're not spending time on there. Let me show you some data, okay? First of all, here's a variety of different images, right? These are all posts from different types of physicians, radiologists, vascular surgeons, orthopedic surgeons, right? But maybe this qualitative data is not enough. Maybe you want to see some real, like some quantitative data. Well, let me help you out with that. Definitive Healthcare, which is a huge healthcare database, showed that there's 22,965 practicing orthopedic surgeons in the United States. Now, if you go and look that number up, and it probably went up since this recording, when I looked it up, I typed in orthopedics with the British spelling, right? Because a lot of them spell this way, but that's okay. 16,000 results. That's a good amount of people. Well, how many of them are actually active? Well, I have an answer for you. 2,000 orthopedic surgeons posted something in the last 30 days. This is on LinkedIn Sales Navigator. You can see who are the most active. So they literally posted something on their own, not reshared. Here's the interesting thing. This number doesn't reflect the number of surgeons who log on, who like things, who comment on things, who reshare, or just log into LinkedIn just to digest content. Many of you are like that. you're logging into LinkedIn. You may not show up in the activity, but you're on there, right? Now, here's the number that's really going to blow your mind. It's been going up. So what I showed you was the number that I found 30 days ago, which is 2,000. This is 1 month ago. Today, that number jumped 25%. From 2,000 to 2,500. 500 more orthopedic surgeons are posting on LinkedIn. That is statistically significant. That should get your attention. Okay? And if we look at other roles, like let's look at directors of surgery. 89,000 here in the United States, 14,000 of them posted on LinkedIn, not counting the ones who are actively on there, like consuming content, engaging with people. Okay? Even this, like, look, Ira Kirschbaum, chair of orthopedic surgery at Bronx Healthcare, started a Journal of Orthopedic Experience and Innovation. It's called Joey. Very heavyweight surgeons are part of this journal. 100% of their distribution is on LinkedIn. Like, these are all, this week highlights of cases in LinkedIn. These are all cases. So orthopedic surgeons are doing this, and of course, a lot of people copy what orthopedic surgeons do. I see vascular surgeons following this, radiologists, cardiologists, general surgeons, right? Secret number 2 is that physicians actually, and hospital admins, they want to be engaged with on LinkedIn. They want you to be engage them, and it's easier than you might realize. Now, many of you are probably wondering, like, well, how do I do that, right? Because there's this LinkedIn algorithm, which, by the way, LinkedIn has an engineering blog. I actually read it. And it is a complicated algorithm. So your thing is like, well, how do I engage them? And then if I post something, are they going to even see it? If you actually know what you're doing, yes, the answer is yes. You can dominate somebody's newsfeed. So every time you pop up, you're making an impression. You know how Johnson & Johnson and Medtronic say to move somebody forward in a sales cycle, you need 7 touches? Well, those 7 touches aren't all created equal. So if you're doing 7 touches of cold calling on the phone, showing up unannounced to the office, going to the OR, yeah, you hit those 7 touches, but they're bad ones. They've led a bad taste in that prospect's mouth. They are annoyed by you. Versus 7 thoughtful touches, right? 7 ways to engage them in ways that they want to be. Then you're not a salesperson anymore. You're looked at as a peer. Let me show you an example of what that looks like. Your content funnel, right? When you create content, is going to be satisfying 2 things. One is the algorithm. How do you get attention? How do you get clicks? How do you get people to spend more time on the content? And then people, hearts and minds. How do you get them to stop, read more, fall in love with the content you've posted and actually engage, right? What does that look like? I know for you, it might be confusing. You might be overwhelmed, but it's easier than you think. The thing is that up until this point, you don't have a playbook. If you don't have a playbook, you don't have a coach, you don't have any guidance, then you might throw some posts up and be like, let's just see what it works. If it works, call it a day, because it's not. You're just doing whatever you think is best, right? Well, let me show you. If you strategically know what you're doing on LinkedIn, like, look, I wrote an article called The Death of Medical Sales. Many of you read that article and came here. You know that I converted this article to be CME eligible? Because 80% of the comments are coming from physicians. These are all physicians commenting on an article about medical sales. Who would have thought? Let's look at a few more. Here's and let me move my bubble here. Here's a student who's in my current program on medical sales and using LinkedIn. Vincent, he sells to endovascular physicians, made this great post. And of course, he has all these people who like it. Why is that important? Well, this is featured on his profile. So every time a physician lands on his profile, they usually engage with that. And here are all these vascular surgeons that he gets to connect with. He wakes up, each morning, and then there might be 1 or 2 new surgeons he connects with. That's going to help him open his market, maybe help his team, right? Nick Lococo, he's not even a student in my program. He just watched this webinar just like you. Actually, he might be a student now. I'm not sure. But let's assume that he's not. He just watched this webinar, took some advice, implemented it, sent me this message on LinkedIn. He's like, dude, are you kidding me? The Kush commented, you're the man. I was like, who's the Kush? So I looked at the post he sent me. He made a post based on some of the things he learned in this webinar. And this orthopedic surgeon he's been trying to engage with connected with him, left a comment, engaged him. How much more valuable is that than showing up unannounced at the OR, right? Let's look at a few other ones. Look, physicians are using LinkedIn the same way consumers are using Instagram, right? Charles Claps, he's an orthopedic surgeon. Here he's taking a picture with an implant. There are 18 comments. Who are those comments? All surgeons. There's no sales rep. I don't know where his rep is, but of course I go and I engage him. There's a way to engage physicians, and I and I ask thoughtful questions and I get them engaged. It makes it so much easier to develop relationships that way. And more importantly, demonstrate clinical acuity. Demonstrate that you can be looked at as a peer, not just a random salesperson, right? How about this? This is not even a video of mine. I screen recorded this from YouTube. It's a very interesting commercial. 704 people liked it, 65 comments, 76 shares. Well, along the way, 1,000 physicians saw this video. And keep in mind, when they see that video, what do they also see? They see my name, they see my face, they see my headline in terms of what I do. That's persuasion at scale. That's how you open up markets. That's how you engineer markets, right? Couple more examples. Here's a post I made just about my experience interacting with orthopedic surgeons, how me and Dr. Kirschenbaum became friends, right? So I wrote about something he said about why he trusts me. It's mainly because of how I use LinkedIn, and he's able to get to know me through there. And I talked about his journal and why I appreciate what his journal does. This is like an advertisement about his journal, right? And if you look at the views, a lot of people viewed it. Look at this: surgeons, physicians, medical assistants, right? That becomes easier for me to reach out cold, because it's no longer a cold reach out. It's a warm reach out, because then somebody recognized my name. They're like, oh yeah, I've learned something from Omar. I've seen some of his content. I've engaged with it. Dr. Ira Kirschenbaum respects this guy, right? Now these things are public, and that's how you start influencing at scale. And again, if you look at the comments on here, not only orthopedic surgeons, right? But also, Cheng Ruan, he's a primary care doctor who does integrative medicine. Qasim Butt, he's a nephrologist, right? And when these surgeons, when these physicians, when they engage with your content and they either like it or comment, guess who sees it? A large majority of the network. Remember when you go through your LinkedIn and it says like so-and-so commented or liked this post? That's how I've been able to proliferate my name, so that no matter what company I go to, it's very easy for me to just start growing pipeline, like literally out of thin air, okay? And of course, people get great results. It's, here's one of the people in my program, Kim. She has no social media. She opened her LinkedIn account just 2 months ago. All right, so she had like 50 connections. She sent this text to me. She's such a sweetheart. Sent me this beautiful text like a day after joining the program, just because she started implementing some things. And she's like, hey, I'm friends with numerous hospital GPOs, CEOs, VPs, and directors because of you. I always thought it was not appropriate for me to friend request them. Who knew? I just need to ask. Thanks for the tip yesterday. So she's already using these principles, and she just barely started the program, right? Now, secret number 3 is that this can be done literally in just 30 minutes a day. I worked very hard for the last 8 years because I can't make this too complicated. It has to be easy, because salespeople, it's not that salespeople can't do this. It's that you have to make it easy, because you're very busy throughout your day, right? And you have so many things to do. I mean, I'm sure many of you, the marketing department is telling you to put stuff into Salesforce. If I was your head of marketing, I wouldn't let you do that, by the way. But anyway, I digress. So if you follow this simple framework, you can actually start making some movement, getting some traction, okay? And here's the framework, all right? And this is the framework that I use. This is the framework that my students use. This simple: connect, engage, post. Now, there's a lot of strategy and tactics that go along with it. I don't have the time to go through that in this short video. Every day, take your phone, okay, specifically your mobile phone, search for the specialty that you're trying to sell to, and don't just search in your market. Search in your country. Add those people, because now you're adding physicians and, let's say, they're fellows and nurses in the specialty you sell to, so you can start getting intelligence and seeing, what are they talking about? What are they engaging with? Then you go to engage, right? Now you have these new connections, these surgeons who are in different places, right? Hospital admin, engage with their content, leave thoughtful comments, leave thought-provoking comments, right? Not just simple, hey, great post, but how do you structure a comment where everyone sees it? You start gaining a little bit of authority, right? Just do that. And finally, post is that because of the way the LinkedIn algorithm is set up, once you get connected with somebody and once you engage with their content, the LinkedIn algorithm is going to assume that you know that person better than the algorithm does. So when you do a post, LinkedIn is going to take that post and put it in front of a few percentages of your audience to test the post. And if you do it the right way, like what I did in some of my posts, more and more people will start getting that post, because LinkedIn is trying to learn what makes your audience stay on LinkedIn longer, right? And of course, I love showing some results. This is somebody I'm very proud of, Joe Canepa. He is a former mentee, still a mentee. I mentor him. And he came out of college. He actually joined my program, and within a year working at Smith & Nephew, he was promoted from an associate sales rep to a sales rep to a territory manager, right? In literally 1 year, implementing this system. And this system also helped him use LinkedIn to get into the medical device world without having to go to an expensive sales college or anything like that, which, if people choose to do that, that's perfectly fine. I've heard they have a good program. But again, if there's another way, why not use it? Okay. Now, just a quick review. These are the 3 secrets of selling to physicians at scale. Secret number 1, they're spending more time on LinkedIn than you might realize. Your competitors, whether they're dumb, lazy, or both, are not taking advantage of that. Secret number 2, physicians, hospital admin, they want to be engaged with on LinkedIn. They don't want you emailing them. They don't want you cold calling. Engage with them in the place where they can publicly see and learn about you, your product, the technology, and you can start persuading them. Give them a reason to take that meeting with you. And secret number 3, you can do this in 30 minutes a day. Many of you are in cases, and look, I've been in many cases myself. When your part of the case is done, you don't leave the case. You're staying in there. You have your cell phone. What do you do? This phone right here can either be a huge waste of time. It could be toxic. It could be all these things. But just like any tool, you can use this to unlock not only your potential to pack pipeline, but amazing things that can happen in your career. Who knows what awaits you? It's just like fire. You can use fire to burn your house down, burn yourself, kill yourself, or you can use fire to warm a home, cook a meal, protect yourself and your family from predators, right? That's the same thing with social media and LinkedIn. Now, you will literally have 2 choices, okay? So choice number 1 is you can try and do this alone, and I'm telling you, you're going to waste a lot of time. The one thing you have to think about as you get older is how long is it going to take you to figure this out? How much time and money are you going to spend? But most importantly, how much time are you going to waste? Because even if you figure something out in, let's say, 3 months, which I guarantee you, I've been spending 8 years figuring this stuff out. What if you paid the right amount? What if you got some help and figured this stuff out in a month? How much farther ahead does that get you, right? Second choice is exactly what I just told you, which is getting coached to get these results faster, better than you can ever do it by yourself. What you need is a playbook. You don't have time to screw around. You're an adult. You're a professional. You're an executive. Many of you have families. You don't have any more time. You don't have time to screw around and do half-ass effort. Okay? So which one do you prefer? Number 1 and number 2. If you fall into the 99% of my students, because I have a couple of students who actually went the route of number 1, and then they decided to ask for my help months later when they wasted time, but that's okay. I don't fault them for it. But if you're part of the 99% who are high level, high achieving, effective sales and marketing leaders, you say number 2 because you need the playbook. You need to invest so that you get time back and you don't make mistakes. Because again, you can go do a bunch of stuff on LinkedIn, but in that process of trial and error, you might burn some bridges that you never intended on burning. Keep that in mind. So here's my free offer for you. I try my best no matter what to help people as much as I possibly can. Yes, I run a business, but I generally try to help. So I'm going to give you a free LinkedIn profile revamp. Click the button below and schedule time with me. And here's what you're going to get in that free profile revamp. It's a 30-minute call. You're going to get a free consult that's going to be tailored to your goals, whether it's like career growth or sales, marketing, whatever it might be. Then after the call is done, I'm going to send you a very specific step-by-step video, which again, normally I do this for $497. Price is that's actually a wrong price. It's gone up, but that's okay. So, you'll get a step-by-step video afterwards so you can sit down on your spare time and follow this video on how to revamp your LinkedIn. Plus, we're going to cover a little bit about my program and see if you actually qualify for it. Now, let me tell you a little bit about my program and just show you what it looks like, okay? So I started the Medical Sales Network Effects program mainly because I'm on a mission to change how we sell and market in this industry, okay? And this program is both online, okay, so you can get it online on desktop, or for salespeople, I invested in the #1 platform for education. There's a app you download, and you can have access to all the videos, all the content, all the things that you need, so you can listen and learn on the road. Here's what that program looks like. The program is made was first made for sales reps and territory managers, but very quickly I had VPs and directors joining it. I had heads of marketing joining it. And now I'm very proud to say I have CEOs and founders joining it. So a lot of people are actually using the program as a great way to actually like network with really high level people, which I'm perfectly okay with. But because of that, I've added a lot of value, more valuable content. So this program goes beyond just how do you use LinkedIn to sell and market, okay? But the actual program itself, these are the people that are signed up for it. And these are some of the companies. I mean, yeah, it's great to show a banner with these logos on it, but I'm very proud that people like Jim Surik is in my program. Mike Trumbolo, who's the Director of Global Strategic Marketing at J&J. Vincent Dellinger, he's a territory manager over at Philips. He's in endovascular. Marianne, she's in biotech. Tony Recupero, president of SI Bone. He was actually my first customer, first person who signed up for the program. And to get somebody like that who believes in this kind of approach really meant a lot to me. It's something I'm very proud of. And as of last week, I even have surgeons signing up. So Dr. Michael Verdon, who is a spine surgeon, a practicing spine surgeon, sees the power of LinkedIn, is partnered with another practicing spine surgeon, and they have an idea that they're trying to get users for. And he reached out to me and said, even though this is a medical sales program, I want to be part of it because all of us in medicine realize how important LinkedIn is, and I want to go through your program. So that's a big testament in terms of the value that I'm bringing to people, and I'm very proud of that, right? And the purpose of the program is really to teach you these three key areas, right? Get more deals, sell at scale, and elevate your career. Those are the three key pieces, but people are finding other uses for the program. So let me show you what that program actually looks like, okay? Here are the different modules. And again, my goal is that these modules would become miniature courses, and these are the prices of the courses, or at least what I value them at. Principles of Psychology and Persuasion. As you can see, I'm in my library. There's a lot of books here. A big amount of them is persuasion psychology. When I thought of how do I create the salesperson of the future, psychology and persuasion, nobody teaches you that. That's the first set of lectures. A lot of people love that section, okay? Next one, okay, and all these little miniature courses I will carve out and charge anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000 for. Optimizing your profile for conversions. There is a way to apply persuasion psychology to this, and your personal profile on LinkedIn is like your personal website. When you Google, I recommend Googling yourself. Google my name because I have a podcast, I have a YouTube channel, I have all these things. So maybe you come up top of the list on Google search, and you say, well, that's because I don't have a lot of social media. I'm on all platforms. I'm even on Snapchat. When you Google my name, the very first thing that comes up is LinkedIn. You better believe if people have been conditioned to Google products and product reviews and everything, if they're going to take a meeting with somebody, or they're going to take a call to somebody, they're going to Google your name. And if they don't like what they see, the answer is always no. Okay? How to be persuasive with physicians. Again, persuasion is a big part of this, right? And how do you do that at scale? A lot of you don't know how to be persuasive specifically with physicians. For me, having a medical school, having gone to medical school, and obviously I'm pretty persuasive if I can get if I get a spine surgeon into my course. And that's the first surgeon. What I didn't mention is that I actually have non-surgeons, so physicians, in the course already. One's a family practitioner, the other one's a nephrologist, right? Hacking the LinkedIn newsfeed. Now, I don't like to use the word hacking, but there are ways to understand how does this algorithm work, right? Because when things change, right, you can't wait for the next updated course. You have to be able to understand how these things work so you can leverage it. Maybe you change industries. Maybe you go into SaaS. Maybe you start your own business. So how do you leverage that algorithm and learn how do you get your content on newsfeeds? The sales network effect strategy. Everything that I'm showing here has to do with network effects. This is what made Airbnb $1 billion company, Dropbox, all these Uber. And so how do you use your own network to leverage sales and growth, right? There is a strategy to that. And then finally, I like to call this no-code tools for lead gen and selling. So a lot of you probably don't know, like, okay, Omar, I can use LinkedIn and everything, but what am I going to post? I templatize a lot of things. I create templates that actually are going to teach you, guide you, like plug and play. Here's what you should post. I create dashboards such as the hashtag dashboard. So if you're in orthopedics, the set of hashtags you should use every single time. I did the research, I did the analysis. You don't have to do that on your own. So there's a lot of free tools that you get to use and leverage, okay? And finally, bonuses. This is what made the program extremely valuable. Twitter selling basics. I'm adding Twitter to there. I didn't have it listed here, but I'm actually going to add Instagram because I want salespeople to get a lot of value out of this. Email copywriting. A lot of CEOs love this one because when they send an email to, let's say, investors, how do you know that they read them? How do you get them to open it, right? So there's copywriting 101 that we do. And finally, this is the most important part, in my opinion, is live group coaching. And normally this is $10,000 because every week people have direct access to me, okay? And they can join the live call or submit questions ahead of time. So the full course, all that value is up to $16,000 plus group coaching calls with all the recordings plus access to me. That's valued at $10,000. It's actually valued at a lot more than that. And I'm still adding bonuses. So the value of this entire program is $26,000. Okay. That's the value of it. Right now, the price of the course as the time of this recording is $5,000. It might be even higher now, right? But think of it like this. If all this did was help you close literally one more deal, right? Or get a higher paying role in a better company, right? And change your life, would it be worth $26,000? And some people say like, oh, that's a lot of money. But if let's just say that I was a magical genius, said that's going to happen. You're going to literally double your income, right? I'm not making that promise, of course. But imagine if you could predict and say, if I go through this course, this gives me a 50% better shot at growing my income and closing more deals and changing my career, would it be worth that amount of money? And a lot of people would say yes, even though it is a lot of money. It is expensive. And again, it's not a cheap course. It's expensive for a reason. But again, as I mentioned, it's normally $5,000. You don't have to pay that, right? I'm going to have a very special price for you when you book a call with me. So book your free LinkedIn profile revamp. You're going to get that free profile revamp. I encourage you to do that, right? And on that call, we'll go through the program because maybe the program's not for you. But if you made it this far into the video, I would imagine it is, okay? Plus, keep in mind, here's the best advice I can give you. If you don't want to take my advice, take it from Warren Buffett. He was always asked, what's the best investment you've ever made? And he always says, like, the best investment by far is anything that develops yourself. At this stage of your career as a professional, what you need to invest in is getting the playbooks and guidance from coaches and experts who are going to accelerate the timeline for you to hit your goals. Me as a small business owner, I spent over $15,000, $20,000 just in the past 2 months on either online courses or getting access to people who are going to help me hit my goals faster and more efficiently than me figuring out on my own. Because if I figure it out on my own, either it's going to take longer, I'm going to make a bunch of mistakes and break things along the way, or it may not ever happen. So with that being said, thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate you joining this webinar. Take action on this advice. This advice is free. Take action on it. Take it and do something with it. And again, if you're interested to get that free LinkedIn profile revamp, again, I'm going to give you a free consult and give you a high-level feedback on your LinkedIn. You'll share your LinkedIn profile ahead of time, and me and my team will take a look at it. You'll receive a free step-by-step video recording after the call just to coach you on what to do for your LinkedIn. So that way on your own time, you can go and change your profile. And of course, we'll go through my program, right? Speaking of which, that is the very last part, which is, exit out of here. While we're on this call, let me show you a little bit about the program, okay? So this is what the program looks like, okay? So as you can see, there are 2 modules, right? Medical Sales Network Effects Program and the coaching calls. Let me move my bubble here. So if you look at the actual program itself, here we go. If you look at the actual program itself, here's all the modules, the content: principles of psychology and persuasion, optimizing your profile, connecting, network effects, engage. So how do you comment on certain posts, whether it's a physician or investor, and how do you get their engagement, right? These are all very important things. How the algorithm works, right? Posts, right? What should you post? And when you look in these programs, like for example, My One Belief, this is a framework that I charge anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 for companies for me to help them with their messaging frameworks. I put that in here because I want people to leave this program and in 2 or 3 or 5 years saying, yeah, I started off as a manager or a director. I'm a VP now, or I'm in the C-suite. And part of it is because of Omar Khateeb's program. This program is designed to get results, and that's why it's expensive, because that's what it focuses on. So very high level stuff. And again, And then finally, the coaching calls. Right now, it's once a week. I'm probably going to add more of them, but once a week, I do a live call. And you don't have to attend live. A lot of students attend live. That way they can get direct access to me and ask for my help, or they just submit questions. And then after they submit questions, they come in and look at the timestamps and they say, oh, here's my section, how to prospect with endovascular MDs. But there's other questions like how to raise money for startup via LinkedIn. How do you create a new market or category? So you can go through kind of a miniature business school / miniature startup school just through these coaching calls, and all of them are recording. You know, somebody asked me, how do you transition from med device into SaaS, right? So all of these are captured and recorded. You can listen to them, and you can listen to all the old ones. Once you get into this program, you have access to all of this. It's not like it's only available for a month or so. And then finally, the last thing that I would say is I create private unlisted groups on LinkedIn because I want people to network with each other. Plus, this group on LinkedIn, which you can't find, you have to be invited. I'm able to put new tactics and new reports and help people out in this, right? And again, the value of it is that once you're in this group, you get to go and network with a variety of great people, right? There's Vincent, Chad Device, so the Mad Device Rep, believe it or not, he's actually in my program. He is indeed a capital salesperson, right? You know, and there's a variety of different people, not just salespeople. We have presidents and CEOs. We have consultants in here, right? And you know, just a variety of different people, right? So that's one of our cohorts. So that is the Medical Sales Networks Effects program. I hope this video answered all those questions. The most important thing is, look, connect with me on LinkedIn. Make these changes. Just take this advice and act on it, because at the end of the day, if your career doesn't grow the way you want, if you end up falling victim to circumstances of the market, you have nobody else to blame but yourself. I know I mentioned that there's a company, there's marketing, but at the end of the day, as a professional, what professionals do is they take ownership over their own career growth and they invest in it. So I hope you do the same thing. Take a small step. Start by just booking a call with me, and you'll get that free LinkedIn profile revamp, and that, if anything, is going to put you in a good step forward in the right direction. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the webinar, and I will catch you on LinkedIn.